The breaking news on Chris Judd, it's down to 4 clubs and we'll name them next.
Dean Cox is joined by Daniel Kerr in the hot seat, who speaks for the very first time.
Big fallout from the All-Australian Awards tonight, some controversy, we'll discuss that.
Because on Footy Classified, there's no room for the faint-hearted.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Footy Classified and what has been the most dramatic football weekend of the year. It continues today with Chris Judd breaking his silence, and we'll hear from him very shortly. Football's First Lady, Caroline Wilson, welcome. Is he the biggest name ever to leave a club?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Bigger than Barassi?
Well, when Wayne Carey left the Kangaroos, it was pretty big. But for a player, just out of the blue, well, not out of the blue, but to say, I'm going home, a player this big and the captain, it's never, ever happened before.
Need to be a very big story to push out 2 finals off the back pages tomorrow, but rest assured it will be. We're going to have the All-Australian team as well, so it's a massive 24 hours, Duck. But your old mob, the Kangaroos, just defied everyone.
Well, when are we finally going to give the Kangaroos some respect, Gary? None of you guys...
Oh, sorry? Excuse me, you got a temperature.
It wasn't the Kangaroos. I was the only one on this panel that gave the Kangaroos any chance last week.
6 months ago?
You were.
3 months ago?
Only
5 months
one
ago.
that gave the Kangaroos any chance.
Oh, I've heard it all.
And you were right, but...
Amazing start to the night from Wayne, but...
Yeah, the Kangaroos go to the back, as does Port, as does Geelong, as does Collingwood, because one man has decided that he is coming back to Melbourne.
Yes, Chris Judd announced today that he was off, and Footy Classified can reveal tonight that he has chosen to meet 4 clubs when he returns to Melbourne later this week. These are the 4 clubs left in the Judd race at this early stage. Carlton, Collingwood, Essendon, and significantly, Melbourne. And we'll ask you in a moment, Gary, where you sit upon that. The big misses there, I guess, are Hawthorn, who won't give up hope, but he has so far, Caroline, refused a meeting with Hawthorn, and also the Western Bulldogs, who Footy Classified understands are out of the running because Jason Ackermanis plays for the Bulldogs, and Chris Judd will not entertain playing with Ackermanis after the Michael Braun comments. So 4 big hitters there: Carlton, Collingwood, Essendon, all cashed up, and Melbourne with the loyalty factor from his childhood.
And once again, you leave the Kangaroos out. The Kangaroos, no chance.
Well, I haven't left the Kangaroos out, but Chris Judd has.
I'm not sure after being in Perth
Everyone gets a mention bar the poor old Kangaroos.
I don't think he wants to go to the Gold Coast, mate.
Wayne, he's flying to Melbourne on Wednesday. He's seeing the surgeon on Thursday, and that's a pretty important meeting, by the way. And all those 4 clubs will be looking at what comes of that meeting. But he has already made appointments, I understand, or his manager has, over Thursday, Friday and Saturday. And Richmond is another club that he won't be looking at either.
The one thing that Paul Connors said on radio tonight was that he's used to great facilities in what West Coast have over there. The Lexus Centre provides that. The Blues, 2 years away from having good facilities. I've heard Collingwood's number 1, Hutchie.
Interesting, and the thing is that West Coast will be a tinge reluctant to deal with Collingwood. Historically they are, and Mick Moldhouse, of course, is there as well.
And the fact that they just put them out of the season. I mean, that doesn't help.
But Chris Judd is going to nominate his own club, and he's going to tell West Coast to trade him there. Now, West Coast, I would think, will probably feel that Carlton's an easier place to do a deal, given the picks and the leverage. But all 4 of those teams can do a deal. So this is really going to hot up now.
Josh Fraser plus another player to Richmond for the number 2 pick is...
oh, gee, Ducks come loaded.
Rumour.
There's going to be so many of them
There's
being
all
thrown
sorts
around.
of rumours, but the Brendan Favola one won't go away, that he'll be involved at some stage somehow. And I don't know why West Coast wouldn't look at him.
They don't want Fev.
Well, someone might.
It depends who Judd chooses, though. I mean, Chris Judd holds all the power here now because West Coast could end up with nothing if it came to that.
Melbourne is the romantic choice. They're not a big club, but they're the club that we know he supported as a kid, and up until the time...
Had the number 3 on his back.
He became an AFL player.
He can have number 3 and my firstborn if he wants to come.
Clearly, you'll be playing some role in this.
Yeah, I'm going to have a chat with Melbourne tomorrow. Look, I know, and everyone knows that Melbourne aren't as flush with cash as the Collingwoods are, as probably Carlton are, and facilities-wise and all that. But you just pitch, you make your best pitch, and if Hutchie's mail's right and Melbourne are 1 or 4, then I'm delighted with that, and I'd do whatever I could. I mean,
what could you do, Gary? What could you do?
I don't know. What could I do? If I can do nothing, I can do nothing.
Well, the footy show would offer him a gig, although I don't think he's the sort of type to go down media street.
I think the thing about the media, I mean, we know Ed's got connections. Ian Johnson is a great Melbourne man, to CEO of Channel 7, so he's got connections. But any club that gets Chris Judd can turn around to Channel 9 and say, do you boys want him on the footy show? He wants to do 10 appearances. Well, we're going to host it. If he wanted to come to Channel 9, Jim would have to find something else to do. But the fact is, you tailor something for him is what I'm saying. Every club...
Melbourne does have some connections, not used enough in my view, and not offered enough with the top end of town. Now, this is where they would come into play, because Richard Pratt is going to be a very tough
absolutely
negotiator to beat.
All I could say is, from Chris Connolly's point of view and Steve Harris's point of view, I've spoken to them today. They're up and about, and they're going to have a red hot go, and hopefully it's good enough.
It's a big play for Melbourne. They've got to be taken seriously here.
Well, it hurt Essendon that they cannot offer... Matthew Lloyd will be part of the meeting this week, but there'll be no coach, no senior coach. Will that hurt?
Undoubtedly,
I'd like to know who the coach of your footy club is before you make a call on it. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
It's a dangerous tactic now for Essendon to have no coach going into a Judd bidding system, a pitch. I mean, it may have backfired a little bit on them.
Just a small point about Essendon. They're doing another round of interviews this week with, I think, 3 of the 6 candidates who were left in the race, and they still haven't given up on Mark Williams or Mark Thompson. No, they haven't. But I think they're even wondering whether some people are leading them astray by telling them that these people are available. I see you wrote in the Sunday Age that Mark Thompson had given some comfort to the Geelong board over the past week. You still stand by that?
Yeah, he told the Cats that he didn't necessarily see himself as a career coach or one changing clubs, and that perhaps the business world was his next step afterwards. There was a phone call between Mark and Frank Costa, I believe.
I realise changing the subject, but it all relates back to Chris Judd and where he might end up.
Well, it's the Chris Judd. Let's really start to dissect it now, because there was a bombshell on the weekend, and today Chris Judd faced the media for the first time to explain why he was coming home.
It's pretty simple. It's really just for me to move back to Melbourne and spend more time with my family and friends over there. Obviously, I've been very privileged to come to such a great club and love the players and the coaches and the administration as well. But at the end of the day, I just want to move home and spend more time with those people. And it was really only until this year that my thoughts crystallised and I realised that this would more than likely be my last at the footy club. I made a conscious effort of, being the best captain I could be of this footy club right until the last day. And, 6 months out, I didn't sit on my hands and say, well, more than likely this will be my last year at the club. I'll sit on my hands and cruise along and, whatever will be, will be. I still captain the side as if I would be here forever. And certainly played, I gave as much as I could to the footy club.
Did they present you an offer at all to West Coast?
No, I didn't look at an offer because I'd made up my mind. If it was a football decision, then it wouldn't have happened. I mean, if the club was the East Coast Eagles, I would have signed a 10-year deal for under market price a long time ago. But it's not, and that's life. And both parties now have to move on. Yeah, so I'll sit down with some Melbourne clubs in the next week or so. And I guess then I'll decide what club I want to go to.
Certainly shocked the West Coast Eagles on the weekend, and today they too faced the cameras.
I wasn't stunned, disappointed like Chris said, but it wasn't the answer I was hoping for, but it was going to be one of 2 answers. You're not going to get Chris Judd, that's obvious, but we'll very, very confident our recruiting guys will draft extremely well using whatever picks we have.
Chris made the decision in his own time. He's made a decision to leave, and now we'll make some business decisions we have to going forward. He is worth a lot. I think the clubs that Chris will talk to over the next few weeks will understand that.
Oh, look, there's a long way to go. There'll be lots of negotiations over the next few days, and it's very important that our club gets fair compensation. So where that comes from remains to be seen, but I'm sure it'll be very interesting the next 3 or 4 days.
The West Coast Eagles' reaction today, Gary, understandably, was a little bit...
well, I think...
Although it was gobsmacked, as you can see.
Right up to the closing moment, they would have sat there and gone, this is not happening. This is just footy talk all around the place. So they're going to have to deal with it. I mean, the interesting things are now, Chris Judd says, I'll nominate a club, and you did right. Once he nominates, they're going to have to trade with him because...
So long as he sticks.
They don't want to leave themselves empty-handed for a player like Chris Judd. I mean, we've seen precedent where that hasn't worked out before, so they'll just have to work through it.
Hutch, you make a good point. He has to be strong in his convictions. Once he picks a club, he can't change, even if it gets down to the death knock as far far as, well, maybe not happening, he has to stay strong.
I'd just like to make a quick point about Chris Judd. We don't see enough of him talk at length, and it's not his job. He doesn't want to be a role model. He's said that. He wrote a column for a year in the Sunday Age, and that's the only real media work we've seen of him in Melbourne. What a self-possessed, decisive, impressive man we saw front the media today, I thought. And he clearly, once he made this decision, West Coast didn't even bother. Not one teammate, I gather, bothered to even try and talk him out of it. And once he says, I'm going to Collingwood, Carlton, Essendon or Melbourne, that will be the end of it.
End of story.
Well, certainly the decision of Judd certainly had the football world buzzing, and today we caught up with various clubs to get their reaction to Chris Judd's departure.
Yeah, it's exciting news, isn't it? I'm sure there's 15 other clubs that are going to be bidding pretty hard for him.
You know, Melbourne clubs will, without selling their soul, be interested in obtaining the services of Chris Judd.
Yeah, look forward to talking to Chris over the weekend and maybe seeing what we can do. We hope so. We'll see if we can do a deal.
I think it's going to be a bit difficult for us to get into the picture, but we're only looking at 2007 at the minute.
We'd certainly love to have him, but I think being realistic that I think we've got to put our resources into other areas.
Oh, it'd be bonus on the field, off the field, in all areas. I mean, a player like Chris Judd, they just don't grow on trees, and now he's put himself available. It'd be silly not to go after him.
Maybe we are one of the clubs that's high on the list, but again, we'll wait to hear from Chris and his manager and then see if we can work through it from there.
That's Purdy saying he's in it up to his neck. Don't worry about that. The last AFL captain to leave was Lee Colbert. Now, you've had a bit of a look at this.
Yeah, I thought this was an interesting point. Now, everyone was a doomsday when Lee Colbert left Geelong and Mick Mansfield. They said this was the beginning of the end for the Cats and they never recover. They went into the draft, Wayne. They just took 7 picks in the first 47, and those 5 players could possibly all play in a grand final. They got Mooney and Enright for Colbert. They got Chapman for pick 31, which was Mansfield. They took Joel Corey with their first pick, and Cameron Ling, who's an All-Australian. So
3 of those could be All-Australian tonight, Hutchie.
So that gives you an idea of how you can rebuild your club. And it's not all doom and gloom for the Eagles. They can take the picks they get and go into this draft and reload and start again.
As strange as it is, he's almost, you think he's irreplaceable, but if you got Cousins and you got Kerr, and Pritis was outstanding on the weekend, and Rosa and Embley, I mean...
And Cox and Glass and Hansen.
They're going to be in pretty reasonable shape, and all these top picks that they're going to get as a result might not be the end of the world. You'd rather have him than not, of course.
If Richmond or Melbourne had 2 or 3 of the Eagles leadership group, or Carlton, I should say, they'd be happy. I mean, surely if he goes to Carlton, he will walk into the captaincy.
I don't think he'd want to. I just think he wants to go and play footy.
Well, that's why Collingwood could be a better chance. Plus, they've probably got the best rehab facilities in the AFL too, which he'll need.
Yes, indeed. Look, we could speak about Juddy all night. God knows I'd like to. We've got to get into a pretty handy game on the weekend. There was 2 finals, and ironically, for the second time, these 2 clubs have played a draw in a final, Doc. And the pivotal moment was 2 minutes to go. They're 22 points up. Glass comes off, the fullback. And also Dean Cox comes off, and every one of these 3 goals is directly influenced by it. Cloak takes the mark in the goal square. Now the clearance here, Seaby, the player that gives the free kick, you'd expect Dean Cox to be contesting that. The goal results afterwards because of the mark that Rocker takes, who'd been on Glass all evening.
It happens so often, Gary. Players come off, and we know that teams are using interchange more often now than ever before. But when these crucial players come off, sides get the advantage. You're right. Cox and Glass were the 2 obvious ones.
Look there, Cloak gets the footy. He's on Jones. Now he had been on Hunter. Now Hunter went back to Rocker because Glass had come off the ground. All of a sudden, 22 points up in a very low-scoring final with 2 minutes to go. 3 points the difference going into 3-quarter time.
So why? Why did he take them off?
Well, we'll catch up with Dean Cox very shortly and we'll have a chat to him about it. I can understand Cox, as you pointed out. Unusual to see a full-back who played on Anthony Rocker, who's not the hardest worker in the competition.
Was it the blood?
To come off?
Blood rule?
No, he was questioned about it over the weekend and he said with hindsight it was not the right thing to do. But he was giving him a rest for the last quarter.
Dodek turned the game though, didn't he? Particularly when he went onto the ball. He just kept pushing his opponent in the back into the centre circle. It was clever how he did it. He got away with it because the umpire wasn't watching. There it is again.
Stenglein was his opponent.
2nd in a row.
He was dynamic. Look, the mail was that he had some real problems early on, maybe not even going to play, with about half an hour to go in the game. Had some injections, struggled with those injections early, but around half-time everything fell into place. And Duck, his second half was just had to be seen to be believed.
Well, you have to wonder why he's being touted as trade bait. Some people saying Port Adelaide, even now after Judd announcing that he'll come back to Melbourne. Melbourne. He's, people are saying he could even go west or be trade bait to another
Malthouse
club.
likes players who play well in finals.
Well, he's going to like
Collingwood.
Alan Didak. He was great. Look, the pressure of finals gets to everyone. The senior players here, have a look at this. This was Wakeland. Just a turnover that got a reaction from Mick Malthouse that you would expect.
What did he say, Mick?
There's a lot of mistakes, Gary.
Well, he said, damn you, Wakes. And then you see this. This is Jimmy Clement. Look at this, kicking out from full-back. Turned the footy over with Pounder, went back and kicked a goal. And then Nathan Buckley, who didn't have the greatest night in terms of his disposal, turned it over a bit, well into the last quarter, under pressure.
Tired legs?
Tired legs. Rosa goes back and drills a goal. So it's not only the young kids, it's the older blokes as well. Bucks, look, he redeemed himself later on. I mean, this was a great passage of play. We were Pounder, nervous under a big footy, drops it. Watch this little tap on here from Buckley. Just a critical component of it all. He goes on and kicks a goal, Medhurst.
Do you remember Mickey McGuan? I think it was a few years ago. Very similar mark to that one. Dropped it.
Johnny Horsfield let him know all about it.
He did.
It was a pivotal time. But look, it was a great game of footy. It really was. And to be there and watch it, they were out on their feet. Just the younger legs got them across the line.
I enjoyed Saturday night too. It was a fantastic effort by the Kangaroos. I thought Hawthorn were going to come out fired up. Look at this in the pre-game. This is Todd Viney revving up Luke Hodge. Now have a look in the centre of screen. The assistant coach is into Luke Hodge big time and really worked him over. It didn't have much effect though on Luke because Brody Rawlings had the better of him on the night.
He probably did exactly the same thing the week before to Luke Hodge when he came out and was clearly best on ground. He's that sort of player. He's very much in the Viney mould. Didn't work on that occasion, but I don't get to worry the boys and the players.
Is Luke Hodge injured? He must be carrying an injury.
Well, he got injured last week.
He looked
saw
sore.
that he came back onto the ground and had a brilliant game last week. He looked sore. Brady Rawlings is a terrific player. I mean, he's done this job time and time again this year on players of the equivalent of Hodge. So you've got to give all credit to Brady Rawlings.
Yeah, take nothing away from him whatsoever. The thing that struck me watching the game was that Buddy Franklin loomed as the great white hope. And, I mean, he had such a game. Glenn Archer was allowed to play in the hole. Now, Duck, the irony of this was 5 minutes into the second quarter of the first final, Archer was on the bench, had 5 goals kicked on him, wondering why he was playing. This is a fact, 5 minutes into the second quarter against Hawthorn, he was the leading possession winner on the ground.
Well, surely Alistair Clarkson, and look, Alistair's had a great year, as have Hawthorn, but surely Alistair Clarkson should know, after Buddy Franklin and Roughhead had such great games last week, they were going to try and free up someone like Archer to play that loose man, and they just couldn't allow it, and they did allow it, and the Kangaroos got off to a great start.
They manned up on him with Vandenberg for a period, they got a goal,
It's
and then
too late.
Petrie went back in the hole. They just dictated terms.
Yep.
Their insurance draft pick of Aaron Edwards late, who was the listed medalist last year, has proved, well, it's proved very handy. He had a big impact early. This was a fantastic mark. It's ineligible for Mark of the Year, but it was a sensational grab. And he really had his eye on early, Aaron Edwards.
Which is a joke, because that should be Mark of the Year.
It'll be next year's Mark of the Year, won't it?
That's the mark.
It goes
That's
into
the best mark we've seen
consideration
this
for
year.
next year. Yeah, all the finals marks go into the next year's judging. Really? So we might be talking about
Mark of the next year.
Yeah, well, I agree, but it will be considered. It will be considered.
He played well.
He is a great story, and that's a great Dean Laidley story too. The way he's persisted with that kid from the time he went there from Frankston, with all the problems he had this year, having lost his full forward. Is there any chance?
He was on the police tapes at the start of the year before he'd even had a chance.
Yeah, we're going to hear from another person on those tapes too in the next segment. Very undisciplined performance by the Hawks as well, though too.
Well, the irony of this is, and the reports are in, had Hawthorn got through, there would have been no Crawford, who's got 3 weeks for this one on Daniel Harris, no Lewis, who got 2 weeks for this one on Brent Harvey, and no Luke Hodge, who got 1 week for that one on Rawlings. Crawford, Lewis, Harvey wouldn't have played this week.
How do
if they
you
got
feel
through.
as an ex-Kangaroo watching the way they treat Brent Harvey in games like that?
Oh, look, yeah.
I know it's
always going to happen to the better players. One thing you know, if you're getting treated like that, you've been in pretty good form. And you're right, it was just undisciplined. The Kangaroos went hard at the man with the ball, and the Hawks they lost their focus.
Plenty of criticism not plenty of criticism, but Dean Laidley was questioned a little bit in week 1. How did you see the battle between Laidley and Clarkson?
Clear win to Laidley. Clear win to Laidley.
Why?
I just thought his ability to dictate terms and get it played on his terms over Hawthorn's was stark. The forward line for Hawthorn, which loomed as a great danger, they rolled the dice with Gibson on Franklin, which was brave, and it worked, but they pushed numbers back. Rawlings on Hodge, all of his moves worked. He had a super night, Dean Laidley. I don't reckon it was Al Clarkson's best night.
And very quickly, Worsfold versus Malthouse?
Well, when it's a drawn game at the end of the day, but you'd have to say the pivotal move of taking Glass and Cox off tips it in favour of Mickey Malthouse.
When you say not his best night, Alistair Clarkson, what do you mean?
Well, to have a they're very structured and they believe in the way they play, which is all good and well. But opposition clubs know that as well. So they plan for it. They like to play 4 forwards and 2 high half forwards. They just dropped the player back. I was watching, I was getting so frustrated. I didn't write Hawthorn off all night.
You can talk about the coaches as much as you want. If Rawlings does a job on Hodge and Franklin's quiet because of Gibson, all of a sudden your 2 best players of last week are cut out of the game. Simple as that.
Franklin was quiet on Gibson because he got help too.
Glenn Archer did admit yesterday that the Crawford ugly hit was a turning point. Right. Looking back, the lack of discipline was a good signal for the Kangas.
We've got to move on. We've got so much to get through tonight. The All-Australian night is on tonight, of course, and Dean Cox is a part of that, as was Daniel Kerr. Now, we had to pre-record because Wayne had other commitments earlier in the piece. We had Dean Cox and Daniel Kerr in the hot seat. It is a fascinating talk. You won't want to miss it. That's next on Footy Classified.
An all-star lineup saw Gary celebrate his 40th in style.
Happy birthday to you.
We kickstart the preliminaries on the Footy Show at the special time Thursday, 9 o'clock.
Welcome back to Footy Classified. Massive night. All-Australian teams just been announced. Very good side it was indeed. I wonder how many of the All-Australians spent some time on the interchange bench. I don't think there's any player in the modern era who is not prone to go to the bench and have a spell. There's some of the figures that have been thrown up. I mean, it was big through the year, Hutchie, but again, come finals time, it's gone up a notch again. If we only go back 3 years, average per team, 30, went up again in 05, went up a fair bit in 06. It's at an all-time high this year, but look at the finals. I mean, this is top high-pressure footy on and off the bench.
That's an amazing statistic, Gary.
Mick Malthouse, was it about 100 changes on Friday night? Now, has he changed the way he coached in the last month?
Well, he's certainly keeping constant pressure on through the midfield. And he's lucky he's got a lot of those players that he can move through there.
I'm not sure whether other clubs use a technology that Collingwood use, but they have a monitor on their players, and when they reach that particular point, they're off the ground, simple as that. And the players are rotated all the time.
73 in a game. I mean, surely this is heading towards AFL restricting the amount of interchanges.
I'm sure that will happen. If the CEO has his way, it'll happen.
Why would you want to restrict it, though?
Because I know that Andrew Dimitri, I've heard him talk about it, he thinks that it adds to the collision injuries.
But, I mean, the footy this year has been as good as we've had it probably for more than a decade. Why would you want to change something that gives you just constant... Well, only a couple of years ago they said they wanted to keep the game moving.
And all of a sudden, I think we're kicking to more contests. I think we're seeing contested marks again, more this year than we've seen. I think footy's on the improve.
It's not to the detriment of the game, having these blokes coming on and off the bench, so I'm not sure why you'd want to change it. It'll continue.
I'd like to know how many the Cats have in comparison to other sides. I mean, they've got a very even side. They've got a lot of midfielders and guys that can rotate through that area. Be interesting to do. Maybe that's a little exercise for you, Hutchie.
Thanks very much.
And they have like-on-like players too, one to change with another.
Glad you approve of something I do. Incredibly today, there was a coach named. I mean, that's how big the Chris Judd thing has been in the finals, of course. Congratulations to Mark Harvey. A 3-year appointment at the Fremantle Dockers, and he too faced the media in Perth today.
I would like to think that the disappointment of what happened this year is really burning away at the playing group right now as we speak. And, if we can make a few adjustments to our list and get some required players to add to the depth of our list, and hopefully we give ourselves every chance.
What's the one key ingredient, Mark, as a senior coach that you would like to see the Fremantle players put on display each week?
Just to show me that they're driven for success, that's all. And that they want to work for each other.
Well done to Mark Harvey. He had a long apprenticeship. Some even questioned whether it had gone past him, but he's won himself a pretty plum role, I would have thought. Now, just before we go and discuss that, Duck, the Cats 6th for interchange rotations. They are.
There you go.
That's amazing, Gary.
It just comes to me. He didn't look like he was over the moon, Harves, or is that just his
demeanour? We only saw a section of his press conference today, and he was just putting on his serious face. That's fair enough.
He was serious, wasn't he?
He's taking the job very seriously.
Very earnest.
I've got a theory about this.
You had your serious face on when you coached Australia.
Yeah, I did.
Yes, you've got grumpy, more like it.
You didn't come to the press conference?
No, I saw enough of them from
Luckily
over here.
for you.
You were very nasty that year. Mark Harvey has made a decision, I reckon, to come across as a tough disciplinarian. And while I'm not saying Chris Connolly wasn't that, I think he has gone out of his way to provide a juxtaposition, just an opposite to Chris Connolly. And I think he's deliberately done that all year, or pretty much over the last 6 or 8 weeks.
He's given Jeff Farmer another chance today, significantly. Says that Jeff Farmer will be on the list next year.
But he won't have Kevin Sheedy overlooking his work, will he? Kevin Sheedy won't be going to
Dean Wallace on the move? Is that the other story?
Yes, he'll be going
around?
To Fremantle to be the assistant coach.
Who's going to coach Essendon? He hasn't got anyone there.
It's narrowing by the day, the Bombers.
Yeah, don't discount 3 of the blokes who are still involved in these finals.
But to coach the Bombers?
Mark Thompson.
Who's the third?
Mark Williams. Well, Dean Laidley still hasn't got a contract.
Surely not, Caro.
Dean
Laidley has got a contract.
Well, he hasn't got one.
He's been offered 2 years.
It's on the table.
Has it been signed?
No, not yet, but he's got a contract.
Are you seriously saying that Dean Laidley is a chance to coach the Bombers?
Not a big chance, not even an even chance, but a small chance.
Would Chris Judd make a captain coach at Essendon? They turn the clock back.
It is staggering that 3 of them... Well, Mark Williams has got a contract, but two coaches going into the last 4 teams are still without a contract for next year.
He didn't want to captain the Eagles, you idiot, and you're saying he's going to be captain coach.
That's a joke, mate.
There is another off-field story that's been going on too over the last week.
What's happened there?
Well, there's a board meeting at St Kilda tomorrow, and the St Kilda executive, interestingly, has appointed a lawyer to help guide them through the process of what is going to happen with the EGM and election, etc. He's Richard Loveridge, a man well known to us all through his footy exploits in the 80s at Hawthorn. But Richard Loveridge is going to be at that board meeting tomorrow, and what will come up in the minutes of that board meeting is an incident that happened after last week's press conference involving Rod Butters and his team at Moorabbin. Now, Glenn Casey, one of Rod Butters' deputies on the board, apparently went up to a St Kilda staffer outside in the car park after the press conference, or allegedly, and there was a minor verbal altercation. There has been a witness statement put forward to Richard Loveridge, and Glenn Casey will be asked to explain himself at tomorrow's board meeting.
What goes on down there?
It had something to do with the membership database being leaked outside the club.
A verbal altercation.
A verbal altercation, and Rod Butters was there.
What does it mean for the average St Kilda fan? Explain it to me.
It means there was a blue in the car park after the press conference in which one of the board accosted one of the staff and said, "I'll see you in jail."
Ooh,
That's what happened.
Jail?
I'll see you in jail. What you did
That's
involves
an allegation.
Yeah, they've admitted it happened, but the Butters camp is saying it was a bit of a joke.
Gee whiz, what the Saints? I mean, have we got anything latest on the save St Kilda, or has that just been superseded?
What's Steve?
I think it's going to be very, very hard for the Saints to win Chris Judd, given the turmoil that's going.
What are you laughing at? Caro, one show to go has lost it on the program.
Do you think that Steve Bedwell's a late chance for a presidency run, Caro? He may. He's establishing a ticket at the moment, Steve Bedwell. It's got Leno and Woodley on it, and Greg Fleet.
This is not good for the image of this show.
And the scared little weird guys are going to be the football directors.
Yeah. All right, we're going to give Caro a break. We're going to push on the other side.
It's going to be the all-comic ticket, Caro.
Hutchie. The first one was funny. The next one not that funny. On the other side of the break, we'll have a look at tomorrow's headlines and also the closing cook. Where was Nick Riewoldt in the All-Australian team?
The Peter Jackson suit sale is on now. Save up to 50% off all suits. High fashion purple label, now $399. Take advantage of these huge savings and look great in our fantastic designer collection.
Peter Jackson.
Thanks to Foxtel and to Peter Jackson. You've been watching Footy Classified. Thanks so much for staying up for our second last program, Gary, for the year.
I know, Hutchie. And next week
is a special time and day. What about this Sunday night?
What?
Following Damages, the All-Star lead-in, Gary.
Beautiful.
We've just positioned ourselves beautifully on the back of the network
jumped on the bandwagon.
And of course, the Monday night is the Brownlow night, so we won't detract from that. We are Sunday night at 10:30. We'll have a good look at the Brownlow and the grand final and a bumper final edition of Footy Classified.
We might have a couple of preliminary finals to talk about too.
Indeed we will. We'll have the grand finals. There's also a new time for the footy show this week at 9 o'clock. Now, don't miss this. 9 o'clock, it's a special time for Melbourne and Perth, 8:30 into Adelaide. We've got lots of things on, including the Coaches Association Player of the Year, which we've been tracking here on Footy Classified all year, as well as the Coaches Association Coach of the Year, and the Lou Richards Medalist, which is, of course, voted on by the Sunday Footy Show panellists. So a massive night. Thursday night, not 9:30, it is 9 o'clock this week on the Footy Show.
It'll be fascinating to see who wins the Wizard Home Loans Coaches and Player of the Year. The headlines for tomorrow. Before we do, we've got a headline of our own. Footy Classified tonight has become aware that the 1924 Brownlow medal, you can't see that, but I'll just take my word for it, the 1924 Brownlow medal won by Kaji Greaves is for sale in a private sale. So the first ever Brownlow is up for auction. You'll hear more about that during the next couple of days, but that's a significant one.
6 figures, you reckon?
Yeah, I think certainly be the richest one yet. And it's kept, of course, at the Melbourne Cricket Club in the Sports Museum, but it's an emotional decision. The family have decided to put it up for sale.
All right, let's have a look at tomorrow's headlines, starting with the Herald Sun. Injury may cloud the deal. It's expected that Chris Judd may be out for 4 months after groin surgery, so I'm not sure it'll have a huge bearing, but it'll have to be factored in.
And I'm sorry for losing it before,
That's
Gary,
all right,
over Steve Bedwell. The Age has the story about Dean Laley, who is calling for a fair run for his player Brent Harvey after his treatment on the weekend. The Australian says that the Saints, Hutchie, will move heaven and halos for a new star, and I think they're talking about Chris Judd, but we don't think they're in the running.
Well, they'll need to move quick because they're not 1 of 4 at the minute. The West Australian, interesting story. The West Australian, Kerr reveals private pain. Daniel Kerr breaks his silence. He spoke exclusively tonight. He's also in the West Australian tomorrow.
The Adelaide Advertiser, no bogeyman. Port Adelaide coach Mark Williams is dismissive of his team's AFL preliminary final opponent. Not scared of the Kangas, Mark Williams?
No, well, their record isn't great. It has been better in recent times, but 14-4 head-to-head overall.
You charged into the office today. You said, I've got the closing cooked. Back off, everybody. Let me go with this.
You can't have an All-Australian team unless you do a bit of whinging and moaning about it. How Nick Revolt missed is beyond me. Now, I must be watching different games of footy. He carried that forward line on his own. I reckon he's had 5 or 6 clear bests on grounds. He'll poll really well on Brownlow Medal night next Monday night. You can't say, I want a bloke in, unless you're prepared to say there's one got to go out. So I would have had him ahead of Steve Johnson. I would have had him ahead of Cam Mooney.
So ahead of 2 cats.
Yeah.
Is he the only one you disagree with?
Oh, look, the other's unlucky. Sam Mitchell would have been really stiff. I would have thought everyone's unlucky when it comes to the All-Australian. Craig Bolton, whose backline work was fantastic. Brett Kirk. Lance Franklin didn't make the side either, so always some controversy.
No Swans there after all those Swans last year, and 9 Cats, Hutchie, who said they didn't have an A-grade player in that team.
That's incredible, 9 out of 22, Wayne.
We will debate that whilst I say goodnight. No, in fact, you're going to say goodnight.
Go for it, mate. Away you go.
10:30 we're on next week on Sunday night. We'll see you then.